In the meantime, let's go ahead and get started. So I think most of you know who I am, but it's good to see the friendly faces again. But I'm Gareth Jones, Assistant Director in the Office of Service Learning and Undergraduate Research. And I'm here with Neela Varghese, who is a wonderful Vista in our office. And we'll have a couple of slides. But regardless of that, this is what they're looking for. So, they're looking for you to be able to tell us or tell the program why you should be part of their program. What is your potential? What is your connection specifically to that experience? What is your passion? What are your motivations to be there? So you have to be very articulate about this in your written statement or in a personal video. So this statement, many of them will have prompts, and we'll have some prompts later on that we can show you that will be part of an exercise. But most of them are really, they're just looking for you to distinguish yourself from everyone else, because this is your time to tell your story. It's your personal story. It's what's happened in your life that has brought you to this moment, that has made you the perfect candidate for this next step. Whether it's, as I said, graduate school, whether it's professional school, medical school, whatever direction you're going, even for a job, it's good to be able to talk about why you're a good fit for a particular position. About this before in one of the other workshops is keeping a journal. It's really a good idea to kind of keep a written document of things that you've accomplished and how they connect to the goals of your undergraduate career, and then what your career goals are, so that when you get to the point where you're writing your personal statement, it's easier to just pull those out and connect the dots for the person who has to read it. Next slide, please. All right, so here is thinking about your audience. So the main audience, most of you are thinking about grad school, professional school, medical school, these types of things. So your main audience for this is the admission committee. And these are things that they're going to be looking for. And again, this is your opportunity to distinguish yourself from the thousands, and I'm not even exaggerating, for some programs it is thousands of applications for programs, right? So you need to distinguish yourself from all those others, separate yourself from the pack. And one way to do that, of course, is to think about your audience, all right? So they're reading these over and over and over, and so there's certain things that they're going to see over and over and over. So, for example, undergraduate research, right? That's a big thing. You've probably been told since you got to UAB or whatever school you're going to that, oh, you need to get undergraduate research experience. If you're going to medical school, you have to have that, right? Well, it's not just a check mark. It really needs to be something you're passionate about. It needs to connect to all of these things, how it helps you gain self-awareness, how that research that you did helped develop your enthusiasm for your future career, how it helped you develop a commitment. Maybe you had a service learning experience that combined undergraduate research, right? That really changed your whole trajectory. Maybe all of your career goals adjusted after you took this one class that really connected you to a specific thing that you're interested in. Reflectiveness. You need to be, I just brought up service learning, and one of the key components of a service learning experience is reflection. That's an opportunity where you get to think about, what did this experience mean to me? What did it mean to my community that I worked with? What does it mean on a global scale? Okay. And so even your undergraduate research, you should be reflective about that. Your whole undergraduate experience, you need to be reflective. You need to be thoughtful and have the ability to show depth of experience. Okay. That, again, I said, undergraduate research is not a check mark. All right. It's not just, oh, I did 4 years of research. It needs to be, I did this amount of research in this level of depth where I really dug into a specific type of research that I'm really passionate about. That's what they're looking for, okay? There are people who do have a lot of experience with research, but it's quantity, right? They're looking for quality in these experiences, all right? So think about your audience so that, they're looking for these specific things. You need to be able to deliver those, all right? Next slide, please. Because as I said, the whole purpose of this statement is to get you to an interview. So you've distinguished yourself from everyone else who's applying so that you get that interview with the school that you want to go to, right? And the way to do that, again, is to think about why you're uniquely qualified. Okay, why should they choose you over someone else for this program. In film, I always talk about personal statements as a preview, like a film movie preview. So you can kind of think in your head, well, what's effective about a preview? Well, it has a hook. Okay, it has a way of connecting you very quickly to what they're interested in. All right, so or what you're interested in. You want to pull in that audience so that they want to not only pay attention for the next 2 to 3 minutes that it takes them to read your statement, but that they want to know more. They want to go see the movie. They want to lay down their money or spend their time with you in an interview, right? So you've got to hook them. So you've got to have a very effective, heartstring pulling, it just immediately light bulb going off, fireworks going off type of hook that pulls them in, that are connecting you to this next step, right? And then, you want to talk about your goals, your future, and how that next experience is directly connected to what you are doing right now. That you have this smooth transition to become a great member of their program. Okay, that's what they're looking for. They're going to give you money to be in a for medical school or grad school for some if you want a scholarship or a fellowship or what have you. So you have to really convince them. And so you need to really think about what your goals are, and it just can't be, I want to be a doctor because I've always wanted to help people. You need to be right. So if you read out your personal statement and you can't get someone excited about where you are and where you're going, then you need to really think about reviving that, restating that, having lots of people review it to see if that passion that you have, and because you're going to need that passion for graduate school or medical school, to get over those hurdles that are going to be in your way, you need to make sure that is exhibited just beautifully in your personal statement. So that passion, they're really looking for that, and that you've been reflective. That's where the self-awareness is. So I've brought up, hey, you can list a failure. That can totally change your whole trajectory. I always talk to you that if you have something that doesn't connect to something else in your personal statement, it just feels separate. It shouldn't be in there unless you can somehow connect it. All right. Because again, you only have a page and a half to show them who you are and why they should select you. So let's write a personal statement. This is not something that you leave to the last minute to apply to a program. This is something that you are working on for multiple years even, because you want to fine tune this. And you want to make sure you have the best experiences in your personal statement, that you've reflected on these. So that's, again, why having a journal where you're documenting these things, it's a valuable tool to have. As I said at the very start, you do not just regurgitate your resume. This is not the place for that. Pull things out of proportion for sure. Again, if you put something in a personal statement, you better be able to talk about it. You better be able to really be articulate about it. There's nothing as bad as getting into that interview and they say, oh yeah, in your personal statement you talked about this. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? And if you can't tell anything more about it, that's a big mistake, right? So really, everything that's in your personal statement is so important. You should be able to expand on it and think about why it's important, all right? Because, again, you're connecting this to what you want to accomplish. I get essays from people is be specific with your examples, right? Tell us that you've thought about this, that you've had an experience, you've critically thought about it, you've had a reflective time on it. And so it's not just regurgitating something that happened, right? That it's connected to the whole path that you're on. And be specific, just as specific as you can, right? Because that, again, makes it your experience versus other people's experience. All right? Next page.
Actually, one point. This is this is where you kind of realize where that journal comes in handy a lot.
Absolutely.
You get to remember, even if you wrote it down and you understood this experience and you had so much to say about it, when you look back at it years later, you realize there's a lot more to it, or like it connected to things you're doing now, and like you have more to say.
Absolutely. Thanks, Neela, for
The thing is, you can just keep working on your personal statement. You want to keep working on your personal statement, but like at some point you're going to have to submit. One thing I do is I always save the old copies of my personal statement so that like I look back on it and I'm like, well, I like this part of it. Even if it doesn't sound too good here, I could edit it and maybe put it back in. So now we're gonna do a really short activity. For 5 minutes, I want you guys to choose one of these prompts and just write about it. Just choose the prompt, write about it. Don't think about making it nice or sound good. Just write and just continue writing.
Neela, do you want to answer that? That's a good question. I'm happy to if you don't, but
Yeah. How do current activities reflect your values? So like one example would be like, for me, I had volunteered with the Crisis Center, the United Way Crisis Center, which had allowed me to see like a lot of different mental health issues that people would be facing. And it made me understand what the importance of mental health would be for everyone in everyday life. Yeah, stuff like that. Like,
there, for example, where you're very passionate about the environment and you have volunteered to be part of the sustainability movement at UAB, something like that, that, you know, the ethics and the values that you have as a person, how are they reflective in what the actual activities that you do? Because again, that connects the dots for people. So good question.
how passionate you are, you have to show it. So like, write an example. This is an experience I had with kids and it made me feel this way. And that kind of shows your passion more than stating it, because likely if you're applying to a job or a grad school that's associated with teaching, a lot of people are probably pretty passionate about it. But you need to show how your experience or how what you feel is different or special.
Absolutely. Great point, Neela. Appreciate that. All right, Micah, you're next.
So just like a forewarning, I chose C. How do your current activities reflect your values? And I was thinking more along the lines that it meant like free time activities. So I'm just going to go off of
Okay.
that.
That's fine.
So I was like, in my free time, my current activities include reading books, watching educational or philosophical YouTube videos, writing posts for my blog, and generally pursuing social media or to learn. Even my break time for research or schoolwork, I'm always wanting to learn and grow. For there's something to learn almost everything we do in society. And this also reflects one of my values that media, especially literature, is a reflection of real life, and thus this art has an ability to teach and make an impact on people. So,
All right, Neela, you want to say something first, and I can chime in?
Yeah. All I have to say is the fact that you brought in a bunch of different things that you're doing is pretty cool, and it shows that you've been involved in a lot. A lot of times, maybe graduate schools or other places may not be able to see everything that you're doing, but that might be something you might want to ask your rec letter writers to write more about. So you might want to talk to them and be like, these are some of the stuff that I've been involved in, extracurriculars, just that enjoy. Could you talk a little about it? Whereas like, you might want to choose just one of those activities and go a lot more in depth in that in your personal too. So through this experience, I understood the importance of mental health, in particular in Alabama. It also helped me grow in this way. So.
Excellent. Yeah, I think I would just echo that again, being more specific with it. And maybe there was one particular call even that you don't have to use names or anything like that, but I think you can talk about a specific experience, and that makes it, I can see the story building. So that's great. Let's see. There's a question in the chat real quick. When stating the most influential people in our lives, do we mention their names? Neela, you want to take a stab at that?
So you can mention their name. For example, in my personal statement, I talked about my grandfather because his passing away was a huge part of what made me understand whether being a doctor was a path that I wanted to take. So you can definitely talk about them and mention their names. But he sadly passed away This is what I learned from the experience, and this is why I made me want to be a doctor. Kind of like that.
And I'll chime in a little bit here too. Sometimes you're looking at a specific program where there's a researcher that maybe has had a huge impact in your life, and that's someone you want to work with. You can definitely reference that. That shows that you've done the research on the particular graduate school that you're interested in, that particular program, but only if you can really be articulate about it. Again, if you're dropping a name, you just don't drop it to drop it. You want to be able to actually reference it. and maybe it's also the person that is writing a letter of recommendation for you. It could be a mentor who's doing that. Again, only put that name in there if it's something that you can really talk about and that you do have a real connection to. Sometimes students will just go to a sign, not do the full research on that person, and they'll drop a name in there, and then they aren't able to talk about it in the interview. So it can be dangerous if you're just dropping names. So, but yeah, you can definitely use real names as well.
Definitely. You were talking about how there were some like really personal experiences that shaped you. So just a heads up, if you are going to write about those, for some people it's easy. For other people, describing it and having to go through that again can actually be like a really hard process. For example, I have a friend who, like, when she was writing her personal statement, the experience that she was going back to was like so emotional for her that like she would have to continuously take breaks because she would start crying. So that's what happened the first few times that she was writing it. So this is an experience to think back through, like the experiences that you had, and it can be pretty like emotional. Another point to make with that is that if you're writing along those lines, reread the personal statement over and over again, because you don't want to make it too emotional that it kind of overshadows the rest of what you're trying to say.
Excellent point. And I would add on that, talking about who you are and your identity is fantastic, because again, this is your personal story. So I think, that first generation, Mexican identity, all those things are valuable and important because that's who you are, right? And it's absolutely fine to put that into your personal statement. That's all really good stuff. So I think you got a great start there. That's awesome. So, and again, I love that you're leaning into your experience that you've had, because that's unique. You're going to be a lot different than a lot of other people applying. So you're non-traditional. You've got all of this professional experience where you've able to see people do what you want to do, right? Or move further into the health. I mean, you've tested it out. You have that experience that, because some people, like they always say, if you're going to be a doctor that works with children, definitely go volunteer in a children's hospital for a while, because it's a challenging career. You've gone through, those challenges. You've seen how people
yes.
Right.
And
I
the
think
long
that's
hours. Yeah.
Personal statement, you probably would only be able to talk about like maybe 3 or 4 experiences in total if you talk about them well. So you might want to like write down all the different experiences, choose the 3 that you find that you want to talk about or that you feel like are the most important in showing who you are, and then write on those.
Okay.
excellent.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to jump over to Aniva real quick for our last one.
Hi.
Hello.
I answered who are the most influential people in your life, and I did just want a little bit of help because I know most people's answer to that is their family. But what I wrote was that the influence from my family drives me to accomplish those things I never thought I'd be capable of. I've tried to quit many things, and if it weren't for me speaking to them and them putting things into putting them in a logical way really made me hang on. And so I've been able to be very consistent in my life because of their influence. But I wanted to know what I could, should I bring in more personal experience to that?
So yeah, my first reaction would be yes. That if there's a specific example that you can think of where they've helped shape your career path or the decisions that you've made, that would be important. And as Neelu said in the previous one, again, you only have enough space for a few of these. So, it may be just really focusing down on one or two that really helped, key moments that helped change or helped cement what you wanted to do. And then connecting that to the specific thing that you want to do. Neelu, did you want to add to that?
Yeah. A quick point. If you're going to write about anything that you feel might be like somewhat controversial, or like there might be like some people might agree, some people might disagree, you might want to be a little wary of writing on that, because the reality is whoever's going to read your application, they're human, so they're going to have their own views on it. They might be more judgmental on your application, or maybe they might agree with your application. You're not really sure exactly how they'll take it. So if you're gonna write about something that's a little more controversial, be careful how you write about it.
And definitely share it with people. Again, to get their response to it. That's one way to kind of test it out for sure. People that you trust. So, all right. I know we're just a couple minutes over because